All right, today we're doing double for your trouble. We are going to wrap up the timeline. And with this timeline conclusion, we will begin transitioning into the next piece of the book. So for all of you who have been tuned in, thank you so much. I've seen the growth between the views and the likes. I appreciate it. Let's jump in. So with this conclusion, we have seen a history of promise highlights starting back in 1907. What we were really trying to do was look for a pattern. Okay, it wasn't one individual policy we wanted to call out. We were just trying to identify if there was any promises, a pattern of promises being broken. Okay, so over the course of 6 decades, we have seen policies be written and rewritten. We've seen amendments, meaning that things had to be added or adjusted or changed to what was already written. And these policies that we focused on talked about the economy, retirement, housing, healthcare, and etc. Okay, so again, I think it's fair to assume through our research and through probably what we already knew that America is built on promises, but what they like to call it is contracts. Okay, so this is pretty much what we went over. What I started seeing after doing this work and reading it and going over research with you guys is basically, after looking at this, wouldn't it have been nice if laws just didn't change? As we're going through it and we place one policy on top of the other, we begin to see how quickly this is designed intentionally confusing. It's like a spider web. We started with one governing figure, one head figure in 1913, the Fed, and then we see that split into 2, then 3, and then it just piles on. So it gets very complicated. So wouldn't it be nice if there was a law that just didn't change? And this is what I was thinking. This is so difficult to keep up with, and I'm in the industry. Imagine people who don't spend 8 to 9 hours a day in this field. And guess what? There is a law that's not changing. It's God's law. It's never changing. It's the same now, yesterday, and forevermore. But the difference between how America builds and how God builds, America builds off of contracts. God builds off of covenants. Now, the difference between the two, yes, America can build a promise based off of their word, but we have already seen multiple times throughout this series that their promise can be broken or altered or shifted. And that never happens with God and his word. His is sealed in blood, not ink. And again, it doesn't change depending on the current administration. So as we continue going on, I realize who I'm speaking to specifically is to the remnant, to those who believe in a possibility of sovereignty, who believe in a possibility of financial peace without any true wars or any violence or really any help. So we will talk about that here very soon, but there's a couple more things I wanted to discuss with this timeline. Okay. So obviously we need to address the elephant in the room, MAGA. Make America great again. Great again, which is what I have an issue with. If it's greatness is something that we're striving for, there's absolutely not an issue. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But when we say great again, I'm just curious, great for who? We just did some historical context and we've seen the GI Bill helped some while excluding others. Redlining helped some, excludes others. 1929 wasn't good for us, but gold was taken 4 years after. 2000 was a crash. 2008 was a crash. 1929 was a crash. 2020s was a crash. The 70s, they took our retirement away. And then we're dealing with the BBB and vagrancy. The BBB is the big, beautiful bill coming directly from this camp. Make America great again. All I see through this historical context is how we traded something real, gold, for convenience, this belief system, this trust that they're asking for us to have. And this really reminds me of what Dr. King said, again, towards the end of his life. that there's two laws, one written by man, which we have clearly seen. We see how they do it. They come together, there's an issue, and they collectively agree to create this higher power that they put money into, and that's the governing authority. So there's laws of that governing authority, and then there's laws of God. And that's the difference that you see between a contract and a covenant. So according to Make America Great Again, this is something that I have to touch because there really is a tale of two Americas. Primarily for black people and white people, people of color. And I just want to give an example. So my mentor, we talk about America in its current state and race relations and economy and all these things. And he has a very particular outlook that he sees America through, which necessarily isn't wrong. It's his reality. But then my grandmother sees America from a completely different point of view. My grandmother, when she was a little girl, grew up in Virginia. She grew up in the South, segregated South. She got to meet Dr. Martin Luther King, and my great-grandmother, Grandma Naomi, actually walked with Dr. King. So in my grandma's lifetime, she actually witnessed segregation. Now we're integrated or desegregated, and now she's witnessing some of these rights being taken away from her again. Not the segregation in whole, but just as a woman, as a black woman, she's seeing not having rights, getting them, and then being stripped away all in one lifetime. So that's the thing. When we say Make America Great Again, when we say great again, I think we need to address the fact that this was great for some and survival for others. You know, that's my big issue. If we're going to talk about that, let's have the full conversation, you know. So as I'm doing all this research, as I'm figuring out what I want to do in my own life, and I'm saying that, oh my goodness, Social Security is not going to be here by the time my parents retire, around the exact time my parents are supposed to retire. And that bothered me. So I'm just trying to figure out, okay, if I'm going to build something for myself and my family, it has to be on something solid, you know? So that's actually what encouraged this work. There was just, I wanted to get truth from the source. I don't care about people's opinions. I was going to mentors, going to my grandma. Let's just see the facts. Let's see what actually happened. And what I think is really important, I came up with this saying, but history to a nation is what memory is to a man. If they don't know it, they're doomed to repeat it. So I think it's very, very important that we actually talk about the historical facts, what led us to those facts, how we got to this point where we are now. Because like I said, I don't think we are having the full conversation, or we aren't leveraging the conversation in the appropriate way. But this really ties into the next section of the paper. You know, I'm looking at the contracts of America. I'm looking at the covenants of God. I'm looking how we always are adjusting our terms. A great example is the tax code. When the tax code was originated, it only started around 400 pages. This day, currently, it's over 4,000. So, you know, when I'm looking at these different things, I'm like, man, okay, I wanna deal with something that God said is going to work. But then it gets me to this question: if God is sovereign, true, never changing, then which God is the true God, and how do we know? So that is where we will be going the next couple sections of this paper. Please let me know if you've enjoyed this up to this point. If you're ready to go from financial literacy to financial freedom, go ahead. I'm going to have my website in the description below. And until next time, peace.
I be rapping by God, it's not a facade. I'm here for the smoke, it will come with it. We make it look cool, like cooler than cool. Man, bring back the beat, I ain't done with it. Yeah, you should tap in with the mob. Why? We be tapping in with God. Yeah, I just do it cause I love him. Never treat it like a job. Go. I be tripping sometime.